Welcome to the Soul Traveler Podcast, an exploration of conscious living with your host, Jennifer Mitchell of The Soul Experience. Join Jennifer as she explores the quantum realms of the subconscious mind and all aspects of spirituality. Driven by curiosity and a thirst for knowledge, topics will stretch the boundaries of your imagination and revive your mind, body, and soul.
Hey, Kelly, welcome to the Soul Traveler Podcast. It's so lovely to have you on with us today.
Yay. Hi, Jennifer. I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be so fun.
Yes, it is. And I had the pleasure of guesting on your show a few weeks back, and I just love chatting with you and so excited for the conversation and the value that I know you're going to bring forward for listeners today.
I know. I can't even wait to see what wants to come through and what we're going to dive into and share.
Yes. I'm really curious about your journey as a manifestation coach, because I know that you work with people one-on-one and you help people overcome mindset blocks and partner with their higher self. So if you could share a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to become a coach.
Yes. I love this question. So my journey involves spiritual awakenings, which we all have at many different degrees, different times in our lives. And so for me, it all started when I got into yoga. So yoga teaching was like my path to opening myself up to spirituality and to the manifestation world. And so as I dove into that realm, I became a full-time yoga teacher. That was my goal. Amazing, like goal complete. Here we go. However, I noticed that when I was teaching yoga classes, I would hear messages. Like I would look at a student and I would hear self-doubt, or I would hear unworthiness, or like feeling unlovable. And I would hear those little messages, but I could also kind of energetically see it in their body. And so for me, I was like, okay, I want to go deeper here. But my human self and my logic brain was like, no, Kelly, be quiet. You're just here to teach a yoga class. These people just want to be in poses and breathe, and that's it. They're just here for yoga. They're not here to learn about their self-doubt. They're not here to learn about really tapping into their energy and shifting. And so I just kind of shut that down and ignored that for a really long time. And after maybe a year of shutting down these gifts of channeling and tapping into people's energy, which I didn't even know that I had or possessed, after about a year of that, I just had a major spiritual awakening where I had a loss. I had a health issue. It was terrible and also a gift and a blessing because it forced me to feel my feelings, right? It forced me to really just look within and be like, am I living life for me, or am I living life for other people? Like, why is this happening? Why is my world being shaken up and turned upside down? What lesson wants to come through for me? And so as I was processing that and processing grief and loss and all of the feelings, I realized I wasn't fully living life for me. I was living life for other people. And I was capping myself off from my true potential. Right. So I really started to explore those gifts of channeling. And so through that spiritual awakening, through that loss, my podcast, Badass Babe Oracle, came through where I was like, there's gifts of channeling coming through. So just plug your freaking microphone and start the podcast.
I love that. So I'd like to ask you some questions about channeling. When you first started getting those messages, and that's so interesting, did you even realize you were channeling, or did you just think it was like maybe intuition and you were shoving it down and aside? And do you think that was maybe a little bit of like fear of judgment of what people would think, and that's why you didn't step forward?
Yes.
That's been coming up a lot for me lately. It's why I ask.
Yes. No, I love this question. So for me, it was like, why am I hearing or seeing that there's self-doubt surrounding this person and that they're really just desiring to tap into their worth? Like, I don't understand this. I didn't understand where that was coming from. So for me, it just felt like my intuition or higher self coming through. Right. But there was so much fear where it was like, A, they don't want to hear that. They're not there for that. B, you could be wrong. maybe it's not their self-doubt or their self-worth. Maybe they're really just here to just be stress-free, and you're going to add more stress into their life by inserting messages that you're hearing, right? Like the logic mind comes through
Mhm.
and just shuts it down. So, yeah, I didn't realize that was channeling for a long time.
So, how did you begin to incorporate that? Did you finally just one day step forward and approach this person or like people?
Mhm.
Or did you maybe incorporate it into your yoga classes? Like
Yeah.
today, we're going to overcome self doubt.
Yes.
How did you incorporate that?
Yeah. So, two different ways. I noticed that I started to share. So, like in yoga
Mhm.
classes, I would be teaching, and maybe in pigeon pose, we're there for a while. Like, if I
Yeah.
heard a message about self doubt or self worth, I would be like,
Mm.
use your breath to feel into your hips. Notice any emotions that are coming through. Is anything coming through that has to do with self doubt? Can we honor that? Can we feel
Yeah.
our self doubt? And then can we feel ourselves coming back into how worthy we are, no matter of the external circumstances? And I would just
Mhm.
weave in those little nuggets or tidbits while I was teaching. And then after that, I would have people stay after class and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that you just said that. That's been on my mind. I've been feeling so unworthy today. And then we would talk about it. And I was like, that is coming through for a reason. That's not just me. I'm not crazy. I'm not just hearing things. So as I allowed myself to just practice and just open up my mouth to what I was hearing, the more that it resonated and the stronger my gifts and channeling
Mhm.
became.
Something else that you said that really resonated so deeply for me is that you were living your life for others. Because I felt like in my own personal journey, I did that for a really long time. I knew I was so
Yes.
unhappy, but I was getting a lot of
Yep.
pressure and like direct pressure to not leave my job, mostly from family
Mhm.
saying, if you leave your job, who's going to have health benefits? How are you going to pay the rent?
Yep.
And my favorite was not everybody, has a chance to pursue their dreams in life. It is what it is. And so when you made that leap and that transition to stop living for others, what was like that? What was that like for you? And what was the biggest challenge surrounding
Mhm. I love that
that?
question because you're right. As you transition or have any shift in your life, you're going to hear
Yeah.
so many things from the outside. And for those who are listening, I just want you to know that that's their fear being
Mhm.
projected onto you. And so it's like, I'm already carrying my own fear. I'm already carrying my own self doubt and my own, I don't know what the outcome is. So I'm energetically not going to take on your fear as well. Right. So for me, I was blessed to not have those
Mm.
things said by my family, or if they felt that way, they didn't say it to me. I had a lot of pressure from myself. I had a lot of pressure externally or internally from myself because I love human design. And in human design, I'm a projector. And so I had a lot of fear around being seen and around seeing myself. And so not only seeing myself, seeing my gifts, seeing my wisdom that I came here to share with others, I was scared of that. And I was scared for other people to see my magic
Mm.
and my gifts. So there was a lot of resistance internally for me that I got to work on and work through to overcome.
Do you incorporate human design in with your coaching? Like for your
I
clients, you
do.
do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious about human design, actually. I don't really know a lot about it. It's something that I'm curious about, and I see it everywhere. I just honestly, I haven't really explored it much, but everyone I know says it's like so
Mhm.
impactful and that you can even, it changes so many aspects of your life. And a lot of people even do business by human design. So maybe you could expand on that a little bit, for myself and also, of course, for listeners too.
Mhm. Yeah. So just a really simple explanation. And let me just say, I'm not a human design
Mm.
coach. I don't read human design charts. Like, I'm just sharing the knowledge that I have gone through that
Mhm.
has helped me and my
Mm.
clients. So your human design is your energetic blueprint. of what your soul came here to teach, to gift, to share with the world. And so tapping into that and uncovering that, like, for example, if you're into astrology and the moment you learned about your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, and you're like, I feel so seen, I feel so validated, it goes beyond that in human design. So for me as a projector, I struggled with seeing myself. I struggled with this duality of fear and success. And then when I learned that my self theme, my theme in life, my energetic blueprint is success, I allowed myself with mindset work and subconscious reprogramming to allow myself to stop seeking success outside of me, right? Like I allowed myself to stop looking at my bank account, to stop looking at the house, the car I was driving, to dictate or to define how successful I was. And then I tapped into the frequency of success, right? Like I became the frequency of success, which is in alignment with my human design blueprint. And that's when things really began to flow my way in my reality. And when my desires, my manifestations began to flow in because I tapped into that frequency, and human design helped me with that, honestly.
I'd like to touch on subconscious programming. Because I also, as you know, work with the subconscious mind a lot. And people come to me, and when we go deep into hypnosis, we find that there's these programs that have been running subconsciously for years sometimes. And like, want to control, alt, delete. Sometimes we don't even realize we get pick up programming from so many different places and not even realize it. Media, TV, friends, and these thoughts become our own, and they start to run like programs in the background. So through your work, how do you help people shift through that? Or what do you think is like the biggest game changer for that?
Yes. So the techniques that I love and that I'm really focusing on right now with my clients are neural energetic encoding, right? So it's all about how you have taken on scarcity or lack imprints from the past and how that has been carried with you and how you are defining or perceiving your future, right? And so uncovering the root cause of anything is huge. And when you uncover the root, and you know this, and when you travel back there and see where it came from, it's like, oh, this was never even mine, right? Like some of us carry things from our great great grandmothers, past lives, in the womb. Yeah. And when you can uncover that is when you can break free and is when your subconscious can reveal to you the lessons that want to come through for you so you can rewire and change your future that's not on the same track as it used to be, where you had those lack, those scarcity imprints, where you carried those feelings of not feeling enough or not feeling lovable that were never even yours to carry.
It's so true.
So I love using neural energetic encoding to break free and uncover where that root came from so you can disassociate from the stories, the decisions, the habits, the patterns, the beliefs that you've been carrying with you today and really just break free.
Yeah. And I feel called to share a quick little story about a client who came to me and for hypnosis because she was so scared to speak in the workplace. She had a senior executive role that required her to stand in the boardroom and give presentations, and she would get petrified to the point where she would go to talk and her voice would like crack and she couldn't speak. And she didn't understand why.
Yeah.
So when we regressed her, we actually didn't go into a past life because the subconscious knew right where to take her. And so she went into a situation that had happened actually in grade school where a kid named Billy, and we called him Billy the Bully. Billy the Bully had actually depantsed her in the cafeteria and everybody was laughing at her. And I think it was in fifth grade, I believe, is when this had happened. And she hadn't thought about it in years. And so after the session, she says, oh my goodness, I haven't thought about Billy the Bully in years. I had buried that and I had no idea that that was the root cause of why today in the corporate world, I'm scared to speak is because she was afraid of being, laughed at. And so we did a lot of reprogramming and It's interesting. Like, I love finding the root causes of things. And you blame it on my corporate background of defining and analyzing and measuring and trying to find the root cause. But sometimes these programs or these situations that happened, we don't even know that it's affecting us today in our lives.
Yes. Yeah. I love that you shared that story because for those who are listening, it's like, oh my gosh, and even sometimes hearing those stories brings up memories that we so deeply, deeply buried
Mm-hmm.
to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I wonder why I still feel this certain way. I wonder why my desire isn't coming through for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it always, always has to do with a root underlying cause. It's never just the surface level.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that came up for me in a recent session I had was grief in my, that I've been carrying in my stomach. And thinking like, grief? I don't have any grief. And when we went back, found out it was from when I was 5, when my grandma was passing away from cancer. And that was like a really pivotal time for me. And I was still holding that grief in my stomach. And so the body holds on to trauma and holds on to things. And it definitely impacts us in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I love that you were able to uncover
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And so through human design and through, manifestation coaching, you work with people one-on-one. What would you say is like the biggest block for people who want to manifest like that masterpiece lifestyle? So like when you start digging in with people and start working, like what do you think is like the biggest thing that holds people back?
It has a lot to do with fear. And the biggest theme that I've been seeing over the past few years is actually not feeling safe
Really?
having the thing that they most desire, right? So, for example, if you're calling in more money,
Mm-hmm.
I desire to be rich. I desire to be wealthy. I desire to make X amount of money a month or a year, whatever it may be. That's my desire. Why isn't it happening for me? So many of us have this deep rooted story stored in our physical body, in our nervous system, in our energetic frequency, in our aura, in our subconscious, where it's like, actually, when I receive that money, I'm actually scared that because that's more money than my family ever made, that my family is not going to love me anymore. Actually, I'm scared that by making that kind of money, people are going to judge me and say, well, what did she do to deserve that? She didn't do anything to deserve making that kind of money. Right. And there's so many stories of fear that's coming through. And it's just us unknowingly trying to keep ourselves safe, protect ourselves from that judgment, from feeling like family or our spouses aren't going to love us anymore if we make more money than
Mm-hmm.
them, right? So huge theme that I see when it comes to manifesting more money, more love, more whatever that you've been desiring for yourself in your life. A lot of us actually are fearful of what will happen when that actually comes into our reality. And we're unknowingly blocking ourselves from having that thing because it doesn't feel safe having our manifestation. And so we've been protecting ourselves from receiving.
Yeah, and fear of judgment's been coming up everywhere lately. And I don't know if it's,
Yeah.
like a sign for me, but we've talked about it in a couple podcast episodes. And then when I went on YouTube, it was on my YouTube. Then it popped up in my Instagram feed. And then when I was listening to another podcast, it came up. So I definitely feel like as a collective right now, a lot of people are recognizing maybe they have those underlying fears, and it's time to like step into the power and release that. So I claim that I am releasing fear of all judgment. I would
Yes.
love to shift gears a little bit more because I do want to go back and kind of touch a little more on channeling. So when you
Mm.
first started to realize that you were channeling, like, you said that the process for you was like you were confused as to whether or not it was your intuition or if you were actually
Mhm.
channeling. And that's actually been coming up a lot in my one-on-one sessions. A lot of my clients lately, they think that they're channeling, but they don't know if it's their intuition or not. And so how to
Mhm.
determine the difference? Like what was your process like, or did you have
Mhm.
a process? Like how did you like basically, authenticate the fact that you were truly channeling?
Yes. So I started to listen to like what the voice or what the feeling or the emotions of my human self sounded like.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then
Yeah.
and then the voice, the emotions, the feelings of what my intuition, my higher self
Mhm.
sounded like. And once I began to really define that and become aware of that is when I could easily or more easily tap into that's just my human self protecting me
Mhm.
from fear. Oh, that came in really quickly, really softly, really just certainly, really all knowingly. That's my intuition.
Mhm.
That's my higher self. Right.
Yeah.
And so my human self that was filled with self doubt, judgment, is this right? Is this wrong? I don't know. Questioning every move. Like she was very, very abrupt and very fearful and very just like the frequency of stress, right? Like very dysregulated, where my intuition, my higher self comes in so quickly that if I'm not aware and I'm just like mindlessly going through my life, I may not even hear my intuition because it comes in so quickly,
Mm.
right? And just so softly, but very powerfully and all knowing. And I think that's where we can get confused because our human self, our logic brain is so much more demanding and overpowering than our intuition, than our higher self,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Do you feel
I
that same
do.
way?
And so like what I'm hearing, and this is how I feel too, is like when you're connected and you look internally, your internal landscape. And the more that you connect to your higher self through meditations and stuff like that, you'll be able to easily differentiate the difference between what I call Mr. Ninja,
Mhm.
which is like your conscious, analytical mind, like
Oh,
that
yeah.
human mind, and your higher
Yeah.
self. I mean, the more that you look internally, I think the easier it is to differentiate between the two. And so for people who are interested in developing their channeling capabilities, do you have any like tips or advice, or what would you say, to someone who wants to develop that?
Yes. So my advice would be whatever's coming through to you, and you know that it's from higher source, you know that it's from higher power. You know that it's not just like what I was telling myself, like, why are you thinking these thoughts? This makes no sense, right? You know that something's coming through that's bigger than you, that's greater than you. So let's let it come through instead of stopping yourself or blocking yourself and questioning yourself and practice utilizing it. So for me, as I was teaching yoga, let's weave it into my classes,
Mhm.
right? If you're at work and you're hearing something and you're like, this feels like it's directed towards my coworker, share it with them. And you can even say, this may be weird, but I just want to share something that's coming through. Are you open to receiving it? Right?
Mhm.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Asking someone if they're open to receiving it because some people may not be. And I've done that in the past where someone wasn't open to receiving something that was being channeled through. And their reaction then stopped me from continuing to practicing my channeling
Mhm.
and speaking it through. Right. So ask for permission if someone's open, but you could be driving in the car and all of a sudden you think of your friend and you're like, I should check in on them. There's something that's just urging me to check in on them. Call them.
Mhm. We all get those pings, and it's interesting.
Mhm.
It's like little psychic text messages or, back and forth. That happens a lot where I'll call someone. They're like, I was just going to call you. And I'm like, I know that.
This podcast is brought to you by The Soul Experience, Quantum Healing Hypnosis. Are you ready to embark on an inward journey of quantum healing? Quantum healing hypnosis is the most profound method of inner work and self-healing someone can do while on a spiritual path. In a single session, you experience past life regression, exploration between lifetimes, self-healing performed by your subconscious, release of trapped trauma, and answers to your most important life questions. Your higher self has a message for you and is here to help you and guide you on this life journey. Book a session today with Jennifer Mitchell at thesoulexperiences.com.